the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
Hello, this is Sid, and you're watching Business Story of the Week.
Fantastic. That is the man of the hour, Sid himself, the entrepreneurial philosopher, and perfect guest to have on the show for today. Sid Mohasseb is a serial entrepreneur, venture investor, published author, and university professor known as the entrepreneur philosopher. His journey began with a self-sufficiency at a young age, leading to early entrepreneurial success and a distinguished career advising Fortune 500 companies, mentoring startups, and teaching at prestigious universities. Sid is passionate about empowering others to shape their destiny and believes in the transformative power of embracing uncertainty and cultivating a mindset for continuous evolution. And today, Sid is going to be joining us today. And, Sid, I'm quite excited for the show. How are you doing?
I am excellent. I'm happy to be with you, Joshua.
Sid, I always start this off with an origin story of sorts. And what I always ask here, of course, there was that little bit there in the introduction where you talked about you were self-sufficient at a very young age. My question is, what was a young Sid Mohasseb like? What would what would the young Sid think about shaping your own destiny? In fact, what would the young Sid say to the Sid Mohasseb of today?
So I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to make it
Please.
short,
Mhm,
and then I'm going to jump into today because I'm going to go back to when I was 5 years old.
mhm, mhm,
Uh, I have hemophilia, which is a blood disorder, where
mhm,
if you get a cut or you have some bleeding, it would not stop. When I was 5 years old, my parents took me to Paris
mhm.
to meet a doctor because I was originally born in Iran and there was not sufficient medical capability there. So um, at the hospital, they suggested that I have to do a couple of things. One, because the pain gets to be pretty significant, I have to take some sort of a morphine-like uh, sedative.
Oh
And the
no.
second was that I have to inject that there's it's a factor of a plasma. They call it factor 8 or factor 9. It's a
Mhm.
piece of a plasma within blood. And they suggested that I have to inject that every 24 to 48 hours. Uh, at 5, I said, I'm not going to do either. And my
Oh,
parents said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to get hooked to that drug and I will push through the pain.
right,
And
right.
I did. A lot of the people in my age group in those days ended up being addicted to drugs and died
Oh my.
very early.
Wow.
Then and I did not inject every 24 to 48 hours,
Okay.
uh, which led me to again it was painful, but I believed in the power of mind over matter and body,
Mhm,
and that
mhm,
led to in the 1984 is a significant. I'm talking about approaching 90% of people who had hemophilia in the world actually
mhm.
got AIDS because they were taking blood that they didn't know was contaminated. So
Yes,
because
yes.
I was not taking that much, my probability of getting it was reduced, and therefore I was spared. So,
Wow.
uh, what does the young Sid teaches me? It's A, you can push through the pain.
Mhm.
B, you have a choice to make, and it is your choice. And C is that the future is always bright,
Wow.
and you should not be confined with what other people define as limitation.
What a remarkable story, Sid. That is, first of all, the chances. Like, what are the chances of you pushing through incredible pain at such a young age to who would know it would have resulted into you being spared during the AIDS epidemic due to that? What a
Joshua,
story.
life is a game of probabilities.
Hmm.
So is
Hmm.
business. You're about business
Surely.
stories, and
Mm.
business is a game of probabilities.
Yes,
And
yes,
the choices that you make will influence those probabilities. Now,
hmm,
sometimes we could be wrong. I could have been wrong,
of course.
and I have over the years been wrong many times. But as
Yes.
long as the number of times that you are not wrong exceeds the number of times that you are wrong,
Hmm.
the ship goes in the right direction. Um,
Right.
so I'm a believer that we have choices and we have to make. It's not how we fall;
Mhm.
it's how we get up.
That is true, and there's a lot of uncertainty in life. Like you said, is the game is the life. The game of life is probability. Business is probability. There's a lot of uncertainty, but how can we embrace this uncertainty so we can shape our destiny, just like the way you did?
The first step, Joshua, is, and people ask me all the time because,
Hmm.
I have maybe your audience or you have seen my TEDx talks and my books and stuff.
Yes, yes,
I believe that it is wrong for people to look at change as the enemy
right.
because we even say we have to manage a change. Like it's something bad that's happening to us and
Yes,
we have
yes.
to control it. The fact of the matter is, without change, you would not have any choice.
Hmm.
Imagine there was no change.
Absolutely.
You would always eat the same thing you ate today. Your kids would always be the same age. They will never grow up. They'll never go to college. You'll never have grandkids. You would do exactly. It doesn't matter if you're I don't know, a prize winner author or a baseball player or a football player or
Yes,
or a scientist, but you would be doing exactly the same thing. There is no
yes.
progress. So, in
Mm.
order for progress to exist, change has got to exist because change would provide you with options. But then the choice is yours to exercise those options and pick the right options over the wrong options.
Yes.
And there's the change also kind of entails what I call it carries the devil in it.
Mm.
Change is good, but some
Okay.
people get lured with the shiny new object,
Right.
so they don't commit to the decisions that they make to get that change, whatever you choose, to
Right.
some fruition. They get
Mhm.
fall into this trap of change is good, therefore I always have to be doing that, and that's the devil in change, I call it, which
Yeah.
impedes progress and execution and getting to results.
Mhm.
And that again is a matter of self control. It's a matter of writing the probabilities. It's a matter of looking at the choices and looking at the options and not trying to chase every shiny object.
That's it. I love that. I love that there's a devil in the change because sometimes we're always preaching this like embrace change. Change is always good, but sometimes change actually, you might want to, search for. There might be discontentment in chasing change and always wanting change because that means we're not grateful. This is something that you teach. Again, you are called the entrepreneurial philosopher, and there's it's philosophy, entrepreneurship. It feels like it's completely, separate entities, separate fields, but there's a different kind of mindset required when it comes to entrepreneurship. How does your philosophical teachings apply to all of that, especially ones that you've explored early in your career?
So you see that the thing is, we have to first define a few.
Mhm.
It's about your mindset. Uh,
Yes.
and that mindset defines which direction you go and what you achieve or what you don't achieve.
Mhm.
So let me first explain how I define entrepreneurship. And I define
Please.
it the same way it was defined in the 1700s, first
Mm.
by a Frenchman. which is an entrepreneur, is someone who has something, who wishes to exchange that with something of higher value. You have something, you wish to
Yes.
exchange it for something of higher value,
Mhm.
that defines you, that makes you an entrepreneur.
Right.
Later on, an Irishman added the definition of risk and says, an entrepreneur is someone who has something,
Right.
who wants to exchange it for something of higher value,
Uh-huh.
recognizing that there is risk.
Mm.
That I have this product, I have this idea, I have my time. I want to exchange it for something of higher value, knowing that there is risk. I built this product, I want to sell it to you for $2, I made it for one, and then you don't buy it.
Yes.
Okay? That's the risk. People go to school uh, to get a degree.
Mhm.
They invest their time, they invest their money,
Mhm.
sleepless nights to get a degree
Yes.
because they think they're exchanging their time and money for something of higher value, that is
Mhm.
a degree. But there is
Yes.
risk. The fact that you graduate doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make $1 billion.
Of course. Of course.
There is risk.
There
So
is risk.
if you, with that definition, entrepreneurship is about exchange
Mm.
of what you have with what you define as success. So this is another part of the definition. There's a
Wow.
difference between success and satisfaction.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Success is defined by others. How much money you have? Do you have a PhD? Did you write a
Mhm.
song? Did you win an award?
Mhm.
The society defines those parameters. But
Yes.
success is in your head. So I mean, satisfaction is in your head.
Mhm. Mhm.
Satisfaction is what drives you. So if you're satisfied, that means the exchange was well. So A, entrepreneurship is about an exchange.
Yes.
B, there is risk involved. You don't always get it. Could be an idea. It could be anything that you're exchanging. C,
Yes.
you define what the exchange or what is of higher value, what satisfies. With this definition, the Olympic gold medalists that we recently saw are all
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. Martin Luther
Wow.
King is an entrepreneur. Mother
Mhm.
Teresa is an entrepreneur. Of course, so is Elon Musk, so is Jeff Bezos, and so forth. So if you go back 500,000 years ago,
Mhm.
that's a long time ago,
Long, long
the
time ago.
studies show that humans built this gene within them,
Okay.
which
Okay.
not only wants to survive, but wants to thrive. It is the
Mm.
gene of exchange. It's in all of us. Whether we're black, whether we're white, whether we're tall, whether we're in Filipinos, whether
Mhm.
we're in Africa, whether we're in Silicon Valley, we have the
Mhm.
gene, we have the desire. We're all entrepreneurs. So
Yes.
entrepreneurs are
Wow.
not different than average people. It's not
Mhm.
you're either born this or it's the choices that we make that makes us fit within bucket A, bucket B, bucket C, or bucket D.
I love
So
that.
it's what we want to exchange for what. Now, that's where it
Fascinating.
turns into having your own philosophy
Mhm.
of who am I? What would I
Mm.
like to
It's
exchange and what satisfies me? And if you look at
it's
all of those entrepreneurs that you say they are tremendously successful, they have figured out the exchange rate. They have figured out what is satisfaction. They've figured out how to navigate risk, not manage it. Managing,
navigate.
navigating. Risk takers are not entrepreneurs. Risk takers are in Las Vegas and Macau. They're not.
I
They're not
love
in.
that.
They're not entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
Risk navigators are entrepreneurs because risk always exists. There is risk in every decision that we make. The question
Yes.
is, how do we write the probabilities of risk? So
I
we're
love that.
navigating through this thing, and
Mhm.
we are then dancing. I would say with time, we realize like a dancer. As an
Yes.
entrepreneur, you have to realize the timing of opportunity.
Time is an opportunity. Mhm.
Timing of opportunities when something when the market is ripe, when it's not pushing through anything, it's
Mhm.
figuring out the timing of change. And then
Timing of
lastly, we
opportunity.
have to build our own unique entrepreneurial, authentic leadership style.
Mhm.
I'm not you, you're not me. We
Yes.
come from two different places, we're different ages, we had different friends, we had different parents. They
Yes.
were different, they had different friends, they were brought up differently, some were religious, some were not, some were
Mhm.
educated, some were not, some had money, some did not.
Mhm.
We had friends that were completely different at school. We are not the same. I
Mhm.
am not Elon Musk, neither are you. And
Mhm.
he is not you and I. We're
That's
all
it.
different. So the
Yeah.
key is figuring out your personalized philosophy,
Mhm.
your authentic approach
Mhm.
to managing risk, your view of how do you deal with nervousness, your
Mhm.
view of how actuating things,
Yes.
mindfulness, your
Mhm.
view of navigating risk. So that becomes an entrepreneur that generally becomes successful.
I love that. I love that, Sid. First of all, because a lot of today is being taught like entrepreneurs, you know, are a different breed. Like, it takes a different kind of mindset to be an entrepreneur. That's always the message. It's always the thinking. I love how you framed it in the sense that we are all entrepreneurs because we just need to figure out what to exchange. And usually that's time and, timing opportunity, so to speak. And we want to figure out what we value, and the values begin to finding out who we are, like what's our philosophy, what makes us, what gets up, what allows us to get up in the morning, what drives us to do that, and finding your own style. I love it. I love how you framed it all together. Sid, now that we have those tools in front of us, I feel like it's just a matter of, say, like, it feels like it comes down to your life philosophy, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of business you're doing. Could be anything. But Sid, where do we even begin to form our own life philosophy, and what is
I'll
the
give
life philosophy that you
I'll
follow?
tell you how I
Please,
would suggest people start. The
please,
first
please.
thing is discover that they are an entrepreneur. Okay? The
Mhm.
fact that you had a job and you started a business doesn't make you an entrepreneur, by the way.
That's it.
The
That's
fact
it.
that you left a job and because you didn't have a job, you started a business does not make you it makes you maybe exchanging something, but that doesn't make you successful.
Right, of
The
course.
fact that, oh, I was getting a paycheck for X dollars a month and now I have a restaurant or I have a big startup or I have whatever, that doesn't necessarily, you've made the jump, but that doesn't make you successful.
Right.
Okay, so the first thing that I suggest is, whoever you are, whatever your position, whether you have a business or you don't, or you want to start one, or you work for a company. So
Mhm.
people make a mistake. You could be an entrepreneur in a company because you're exchanging your time and efforts. You make a decision. Do I
Right.
go home to my son's baseball game or basketball game, or do I
Mhm.
stay another half an hour in this meeting? You make a choice. You're exchanging your time and options for what may get you additional salary increases or a better position within the company. You are
Right.
actually exchanging. You just don't realize it. You are making a choice.
Right.
You
Right.
are making a choice. So
Mhm.
here's what I suggest. I suggest the next time you're trying to go to the grocery shop and buy something,
Mhm.
stop and look
So,
both sides of the street. You have a choice to take the
right.
longer way home
Okay.
or the shorter way home.
Okay.
You have a choice to go on the other side of the street and walk. You have a choice to pick up a bicycle or get in your car. You have a choice. So,
Mhm.
first, the idea is to realize that at any given second, you have a choice. The choice is yours.
And that's the
And,
first step.
and you are exchanging a longer walk by the ocean when you go to work, where you enjoy the scenery or you go through traffic. You make a choice.
That's it.
So the first thing is to realize that you make a choice and you're exchanging one thing and another. When you master this idea of exchange,
Mhm.
then you begin not only to think about it from your perspective, but interestingly enough, I have a concept that's picking up some speed, and a lot of people are now practicing it. Some people have even changed their entire business with this philosophy, which is we have to go from profits to reason, meaning profits and revenue are outcome. Now you
Outcomes.
may say, why are they an outcome? We have a
After,
sales force. We're
yes, of
trying to
course.
sell something to
Hmm.
somebody, right?
Hmm.
But who
Hmm.
makes the decision to buy?
The buyers, the
The
people.
buyers make the decision.
Hmm.
So my sales force is really irrelevant. It's their decision. So if I find out what reasoning they use to buy,
Interesting.
what exchange they have, they also
Yes.
have an exchange. If I
Yes.
figure that out, revenue will come.
Wow. Wow.
Revenue will come because I have satisfied what their exchange is. Just
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur, they too are entrepreneurs. They are exchanging something that they have, the cash they have, their loyalty, whatever it is, with something that you give them.
It's
With
just
something
about
that you give them.
figuring out what they want to exchange as well.
And the same thing applies to the employees. We
Huh,
think we
interesting.
hire somebody and they
Okay.
say, hey, I'm going to get $100,000 a year.
Hmm.
We say, okay, here's an offer for $100,000 a year. Now, we think that we hired them,
Yes.
but in reality, they accepted to provide a certain level of commitment and innovation in equivalent of $100,000. And they
Right.
have a choice to stay up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be more innovative or not. It's their choice.
Hmm.
It's their reasoning. If you give them the reason, they'll take you to the moon. If you don't give them the reason, you have just have a contract which they have agreed, but they've agreed to exchange $100,000 for 2 hours of their time in a day. The rest of it, they're thinking about things. And then we say,
Yes.
oh, they're not performing. They're not performing because the exchange is wrong.
The
They're
exchange
not
is wrong.
satisfied. They're not, there's something missing. The same thing with the partners and supply chain folks you work, the same thing with investors, and the same thing with the society that we live in. Those are the five pillars. As a leader, you figure out, as an entrepreneur, as a leader,
Hmm.
you figure out those reasons for those five pillars and the exchanges, which is always changing.
Yes.
My customers of 10 years ago are not the same people as my customers today. The expectations change.
Hmm.
So their reasonings have changed.
Yes, exactly.
You figure out and harmonize this process, you've
Right.
got a great business.
But Sid, how would you manage a greedy exchange, so to speak? An employee who wants more free time, an investor who wants more cut of the pie. I mean, that is their exchange. How would
Do
you navigate
everybody
that?
does Joshua? Does everybody gets married to everybody? No, not
Of course
everybody
not.
is a good match for everybody.
Mm, there you go.
Not it's we're assuming that. So either I have to change what I provide to attract those kind of people,
Mhm.
right? Let's say I want to get married and nobody marries me who plays the piano because I don't understand music. Okay, if I want to attract people who have good voice and like music, I have to go learn music because
That's it.
I'm not attractive to them.
Mhm.
As a company, I have to be able to, and this is what they call culture. Culture is not built because I just go and say I have a culture of tolerance or I have a culture. It's built because people of like mind come together.
Right.
They're satisfied on both ends, and
Mm,
that becomes a culture. It becomes a culture of innovation. It becomes a culture of execution. It becomes a culture of lexi dexiness.
that's true. Wow. Wow.
Cultures are not imposed;
Yeah.
they are built,
They're built, of
and it's
course.
built based on that exchange.
Ah, interesting. I love that. Sid, you've described life as sculpting the self. And a lot of what you just said just now feels like you have to shape your values, you have to shape those around you in the sense that you have to know what to give in equivalent exchange, so to speak, right? And you build that culture, you cultivate that culture, you sculpt the self, you sculpt the culture, and all of that. As an entrepreneur, as a sculptor of the self, what tools would we need in our toolkit to carve out success?
That's a good question. I've never looked at it in what tool, but I'll tell you what you need. You could
Please,
call it
please.
tools. You could call it capability.
Okay.
One is listening.
Interesting.
A lot of
Very
people
important.
listen to respond,
That's
not
it.
to learn.
They hear, they don't listen.
They So listening means that every time you listen and you understand a different dimension of a problem or a perspective, you
Yes.
have essentially increased your knowledge. And
Mhm.
as you increase your knowledge, you decrease the probability of failure.
Yes.
So this is a very, very selfish thing. Listen because it increases your probability of success.
Yes. Okay.
So listening is extremely important. The second is trust.
Yes.
First, you have to, I call it the three-way trust. It's not a two-way trust.
Mhm.
First, you have to trust yourself. That means, but you don't have to bamboozle yourself. Say,
Mm.
I am 5'3", 5'4". I am
Okay.
not LeBron James. I
Yes.
cannot play in the NBA.
Hmm.
If I just bamboozle myself, say, I trust that I can be there. That's a foolish thing.
True.
It's
True.
not
Of course.
rooted within reality,
Hmm.
which is an important factor. So the
Of
first
course.
is I have to trust myself within the dimensions of the reality that I am. Two,
Yes.
I have to trust others, not ask for their trust.
Not
I
ask for
have to
the
trust
trust.
others.
Hmm.
I have to trust that they are capable. I have to trust that if they joined me and the exchange was right for them, they're going to be doing their thing. I have to trust them, and
Yes.
then they would trust me as a leader.
Oh.
Only then they would trust me as a leader because I've demonstrated that I trust within the bound of reality. I have trusted them, and then they would trust me. I call this the compounded interest of trust. It
Okay.
compounds. And if you get that, you have magic.
I love that. I
You
love
have
that.
magic.
Trust.
So,
Yes. Of course.
is it a tool?
Well, we can call it a
Trust
tool.
yourself,
Trust. Yeah.
trust others, and then that would bring you trust, which is an amazing, amazing thing.
I mean,
Um, so those are two
mhm.
key elements. Um,
Trust and the other
and
one
listen,
being listening,
listen,
because listening is
listen.
important. People tend to kind of forget that, just listen. Sometimes people, you just need to sit down and listen, and just sit down and, be there, and like, hear people out. Sometimes that's all we need, really. But I feel like before we can begin to trust people, before people can begin to trust us, we have to listen to them first. I think that's quite important as well. Very, very
So that's
important.
how you build trust. That's how I know who Joshua is, what he's capable of, and then give him the ability to. So here's one thing I'm against, and people argue with me about this. They say, "Oh, you're playing with the words," but I don't think you and I, as leaders, or nobody, has the ability to empower people.
Hmm.
That means
Interesting.
I am giving them the power. The power of innovation and creativity is theirs to begin with. They have
Okay.
power.
Okay.
They have the power, and they are using it at times to mess up your business and mine. They're on the front line. They're practicing that power. So I'm not
Mhm.
giving them power. What I'm doing
Mhm.
is facilitating their ability to exercise their power correctly within the
Correctly.
right bounds. I am So that's how innovation comes in. Innovation and creativity and effectiveness and productivity comes from people getting the right thing from the reasoning perspective and having the ability to use their intelligence.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
some people believe that, hey, people are generally an idiot and they don't know, they can't think. Some bosses think like that. A lot of people
Of
do.
course.
So if you hire people that can't think, guess who hired? So don't hire them.
Don't hire. Exactly. If you hire.
So it's
Uh,
not
no.
them that's stupid. It's you and I that hired them. We made a bad
Exactly.
choice, okay?
Hmm.
Either we live with it
Hmm.
or we correct.
Of
If
course.
we live with it, that means we have decided to work and operate within those boundaries. Then we shouldn't be dissatisfied. We
Wow,
shouldn't be upset. We
that's true.
shouldn't blame others.
Sid, these are very, very like off the cuff, or more like really, really unique perspectives, unique philosophies that that goes against the grain in entrepreneurship and what we know about business. You must receive a lot of pushback, do you?
Yeah, but
Well,
hey, I've got companies that have turned into this philosophy. They
mhm.
have increased their revenue 6 or 7 times within a year or two, in the tunes of tens of millions of dollars, and they have people that don't leave them. And at times, at hard times, they even cut their own salary by their own choice.
Wow, wow. Well, I mean, Sid, everything you taught us today is just mind blowing, and I think that philosophy is. I think we need a little bit more of that in the world. It's level headed. It's not always about like entrepreneurship, success, strength. And like being the top of your game. But I feel like we need to level down, go to our roots, and realize that hey, this is just it's life. Entrepreneurship is life, so to speak.
So I just want to make sure to correct first. I am not against success. I am a
Of
capitalist.
course.
I invest in companies. I have built a
Of course.
number of companies. I have
Mhm.
sold a number of companies. But we have been trained,
Mhm.
and some of that is our schooling. We've been trained to focus on outcome.
Yes, that's it.
This
That's a
this
problem.
wasn't the case 50, 100 years ago.
Mhm.
America, for example, wasn't built on let's maximize profit, let's maximize revenue.
Mhm.
It was built on let's maximize value. When you maximize value to people, you automatically get a response of revenue in exchange. So
Mhm.
the assumption is that I should provide less value and expect more money.
Interesting.
That
Interesting.
is
Nope.
not good
Nope.
business. That's
Of
bad
course not.
business.
Bad business.
That
It
is
is.
not a sustainable business.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's a transitional business. That's like a shyster. It's not a business.
That's true. Not a business.
When you provide that value to your customer, when you provide it to your employees, when you provide it to your society, when you provide it to your investors,
Mhm.
and you provide it to all those people who are in your ecosystem, your partners, then the lift, the wave goes up and it lifts everybody.
That's true.
And you with it. And you come in satisfied, as opposed to in some parameter or paradox that may not necessarily operate profit.
I love that. Of course, your motto on your website it says evolve always, and the website is mohassib.com, and you can find that also at caterpillaredge.com. To our audience and listeners out there, Sid, where else can we connect with you? Where can we find you? And of course, there's a lot of your videos and your books out there, your publications. Where can we learn more?
Yeah. So there is, as you mentioned, Mohasseb.com is my main site, and Sid
Mhm.
at Mohasseb.com, my first name and my last name, is where people can reach out to me. And I don't have 17 people checking my email. I do it myself.
Wow. Mhm.
Some people have this cascade of people. If they care enough to send me an email, I should care enough to read the
Of course.
and I would love your opinions and thoughts. As
Mhm.
you mentioned, caterpillarsedge.com is the site for my first book called The Caterpillar's Edge. And You Are Not Them, which is also youarenotthem.com, which is my second book, which talks about a lot of stuff actually in the second book that we talk about today.
Wow.
Uh, and there is, as you mentioned, I've got TED Talks that people can watch, and
Yes, of course.
probably a couple of hundred articles that are across different platforms, from
Mhm.
I don't know, from Times to USA Today to Harvard Business Review to London School of Economics. and other
Mhm.
places. So I'm easy to find.
Precisely. And there is.
I just wanna leave you with one
Oh,
thought.
please, please,
Uh,
please, Sid.
People a lot of times call me a motivational guy or a motivational speaker because I
Mhm.
talk about change and I talk about options and I talk about the future. Um, I cannot motivate anybody, Joshua. I can
Mhm.
only provoke you.
Oh, interesting.
I can only provoke you. The only motivation that can be created is if you really realize that you are an entrepreneur and you are exchanging and you are satisfied with that exchange and that propels you. Then you
Mhm.
don't need to watch somebody that got a gold medal at Olympics. You're not them. I am not that person.
Of
I
course.
am not this Simone Bales that did all these great things. I am
Yes,
not the people who have suffered major things and don't have a leg and don't have a this. We are not them. We are
that's
not
true.
them. So we have to be able to kind of self motivate within the parameters that we have, not within their parameters. And the
Mhm.
only thing that I do uh, come to these conversations like this for uh, is to ask people uh, to stop and think for a minute that in every
Okay.
instance you make a decision or you can make a decision and that decision could change your entire life, but
I love
the option to make that decision is entirely yours, nobody else,
that
nobody else.
decision, that
So
choice. We have
I
choices
just
every
like
day.
to provoke you that there are lots of choices. The change is not your enemy, it's actually the best friend you have. And if you evolve always, then you will show progress always, and your next best version is better than the previous version. And sometimes,
Mhm.
if you are an artist and you make a mess on one corner as you're drawing the something, and then okay, you wipe it out and you redraw it. That's our life. Sometimes we have a piece of us that don't work well.
Yeah,
That's okay.
that's true. It's okay. So, I mean, it's you've really shared a lot of life philosophy today, Sid, not just business philosophy, not just entrepreneur philosophy. And I love that final thought, like we have choices and um it's okay to, it's okay that sometimes those choices may not pan out, but still, our choices shape us and they're, even if they don't pan out, maybe they're there to make us stronger, make us better.
Only if you listen. They are
Oh,
there. I guarantee you, they're there to teach you a lesson.
wow. Wow.
Not maybe. I guarantee you every failure that we have is there to teach us a lesson. But the
Sid,
question is, are we listening? Are we
that's it.
watching? Are we caring?
Um, Care. Do we care enough to listen? Do we care enough to improve? Do we care enough to get better? And I think it really all starts with listening and, get to trust yourself along the way. Sid, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the insight, the wisdom, the wisdom. There's so much wisdom in here that
You are
I,
kind. You are
I,
kind.
I feel, I already feel a bit wiser today. To
It
all
was a
our
pleasure to
audience,
be with you, Joshua. Thank you for the opportunity, and you humble me with your kind words.
thank you so much. And it was the pleasure is mine, Sid. Thank you so much. And to all our audience and listeners out there, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and the insight, the wisdom, and of course, I hope you take value in this as much as I did. And of course, Sid, thank you again, once again, for joining us in this episode. Thank you for watching this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you on the next one. Bye bye.
All right, so here's the thing, we try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.